Imagine this. It's 3 a.m. and you're awake. The city has long since fallen asleep, leaving only a few distant, lonely streetlights outside your window, like frozen teardrops. The world is so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat and the ceaseless war raging inside your mind. Was that thing I said in the meeting today just plain stupid? Am I really right for this job, or am I just wasting my life? Everyone else seems to have it all figured out. Why am I the only one who's stuck here? What do I even want? These questions, like a swarm of ghosts that cannot be exorcised, circle around you in your most vulnerable moments. You turn over, pulling the covers over your head, trying to shut them out, but you know it's useless, because the battlefield is within your own skull. You must have felt this before, right? A profound, pervasive inner friction. It's not physical fatigue, but a kind of spiritual abrasion. You feel like an engine revving in neutral, burning through all your fuel but going nowhere. You strive to play the part of a normal person, a productive employee, a reliable friend, a stable adult. You scroll through your phone, looking at those perfectly curated snapshots of life, trying to mimic that effortless sense of ease. But whenever the night deepens and the mask comes off, a colossal sense of absurdity engulfs you. You feel like a fraud, an actor in an ill-fitting costume, playing a role you don't even believe in yourself. Everything you do seems to be for the sake of satisfying some invisible, intangible, yet omnipresent standard. A script about how one ought to live. Have you ever stopped to wonder who wrote this script? Why must you pursue success? Why must you be valuable? Why must you have your life figured out by 30? Why must you be happy? Who made these musts mandatory? What are you afraid of? Making the wrong choice? Being judged? Falling behind? Or is your deepest fear that this script you're trying so desperately to perform from beginning to end doesn't even exist? Is what you truly fear that overwhelming, boundless expanse of freedom? We live in a strange paradox. We yearn for freedom, yet we frantically search for shackles to bind ourselves. We use the gazes of others, the expectations of society, and the definitions of consumerism to build one magnificent prison after another for ourselves, only to complain that the space is too small, that we can't breathe. We desperately seek the standard answer to life, yet we've never asked ourselves, what if life has no standard answer at all? This inner friction that keeps you up at night, this endless war in your mind, is actually a meticulously designed deception, a systemic lie quietly implanted in your mind since the day you were born. This lie, this ghost that haunts your consciousness, has a very old and seductive name: essentialism. It tells you that everything in the universe, including you, has a predetermined fixed essence or purpose. Just as the essence of a hammer is to hit nails, the essence of a flower is to bloom. Therefore, your life's task is to discover that unique, correct essence that belongs to you. You must find your destiny, your soulmate, your purpose in life. This lie is so sweet because it gives you a map, a destination, a false sense of security. And so your life becomes a never-ending treasure hunt. You are anxious because you're afraid you won't find that destiny. You're tormented by inner friction because every step you take is compared against that imaginary correct path. A massive gorge exists between the state you're in now and the state you should be in. Your mental energy is stretched, torn, and exhausted in this gorge. The great psychologist Carl Jung would tell you that this gorge is the war between your persona and your true self. To fit into this essentialist world, you have meticulously crafted a mask. This mask is inscribed with all the socially approved words: ambitious, sociable, optimistic, stable. You wear it to work, to socialize, even to love. You polish it so well that sometimes you yourself forget that beneath the mask there is a face of flesh and blood. But your true self, that chaotic, contradictory, living organism full of desires and fears, is not simply disappear. It is suppressed into the depths of your subconscious, becoming what Jung called the shadow. Your anger, your sadness, your laziness, all the parts of you that don't fit the correct script are stirring restlessly in this shadow. At 3 a.m., when your mask is at its most tired and your defenses are at their weakest, these shadows emerge from the abyss like ghosts to question you. Is this really the life you want? This is not just a psychological conflict. The philosopher Nietzsche would pierce this deception with even sharper words. He would say that the correct script you're following is nothing more than the product of slave morality or herd morality. It's a value system created by the weak for self-preservation, one that praises conformity, pity, and security because it fears anything powerful, independent, and daring enough to create its own values. The reason for your inner friction is that your innate life force, that primal drive Nietzsche called the will to power, is violently colliding with this social script that demands you be tame and mediocre. You feel trapped because your soul longs to be a lion, but every voice around you is telling you that being a safe sheep is what is good. The process of you desperately trying to trim your own claws and teeth to blend in with the flock is the source of your inner friction. And existentialist philosophers like Sartre and Camus would offer you a truth that is even more brutal, yet also more liberating. You were thrown into this world. There is no script, no map, no preordained meaning. The universe is silent. It is indifferent to your existence. The first truth of your life is the absurd. You crave meaning, and the world refuses to provide any. This is the fundamental conflict between you and the world. So why the inner friction? Because you have been agonizing over a standard answer that doesn't exist. You are like an actor holding a blank script, paralyzed with anxiety for being unable to deliver lines that were never written. That feeling of suspension, of being unmoored and groundless, is precisely the existential angst you feel when you come face to face with this ultimate truth. This is not a sickness, it is a state of clarity. It is the terror that follows the realization that you have been condemned to be absolutely free. This terror, this dual psychological and philosophical shackle, does more than just cause insomnia. It is shaping your choices, your destiny, and even the entire structure of our society in a way you can barely see. The most insidious thing about this lie of essence and a correct script is that it isn't written in law, but permeates every corner of your life like the air you breathe. It operates through an invisible system of rewards and punishments, silently shaping your behavior and ultimately determining the trajectory of your life. Have you ever noticed that the underlying logic of your many decisions is to avoid punishment rather than to pursue passion? You choose a stable but passionless job, not because you truly love it, but because you fear the uncertainty of unemployment, fear being labeled a failure. This punishment is intangible. It comes from the idle gossip of relatives, from comparisons at class reunions, from the constant judgmental voice inside your own head. To evade this spiritual pain, you willingly surrender the most precious things you have, time and passion. You strive to maintain a relationship that looks good, even if you are emotionally exhausted. You fear loneliness, but you fear social judgment even more. Still single at this age? What's wrong with you? And so you would rather suffer the inner friction of a two-person solitude than dare to face the freedom of being alone. Behind this system of rewards and punishments are deep-seated cognitive biases and brain mechanisms at work. Our brains are hardwired to hate uncertainty and prefer predictable paths. That correct script, good university, good job, marriage, kids, a stable retirement, is like a paved highway. The scenery might be dull, but it appears safe. Any attempt to stray from this main road triggers alarms in your brain's amygdala, making you feel intense fear and anxiety. You think you are making a choice, but often it's just your brain choosing the path of least resistance, the safest one. The entire structure of society reinforces this deception. Consumerism tells you that your essence can be defined by the products you buy. The car you drive represents the person you are. The phone you use defines your taste. And so you fall into a cycle of work, consume, work again. You work hard not for self-realization, but to earn money to buy the symbols that prove your existence.
You think you are consuming products, but in reality, the products are consuming your life. The education system, from the very beginning, trains you to find the standard answer. On an exam paper, there is only one correct option. It stifles your tolerance for ambiguity, complexity, and contradiction. So when you step into the vast examination hall of society, where there are no standard answers, you are utterly lost. You desperately seek life's reference answers from the outside world, from various success gurus. But you forget to ask yourself the one thing that matters. The power to define the question was supposed to be in your hands. The most terrifying consequence of this lie is that it induces a form of existential amnesia. You forget that you have the right to choose, forget that you can define your own worth. You begin to believe that your value is determined by your job title, your income, your social status. You become a complete other, a hollow person living in the gaze of others, defined by external standards. Your inner friction is the final cry of your true self. It's a distress signal from your soul before it is crushed by this massive, invisible social machine. It is reminding you that you are trading your life for a collection of worthless illusions. If you don't awaken, you will live out your days meekly in this well-designed prison. You will be safe, you will fit in, you will have everyone's approval, but you will have lost the one thing that matters, yourself. You will become like Dostoevsky's underground man, cowering in your corner, simultaneously jealous of those who live authentically and passionately, while using cynical reason to justify your own powerlessness. Only at the very end of your life will you realize, with a jolt, that you spent your entire existence performing a play you didn't like for a fictional audience, and the seats were empty all along. So, how do you smash this prison? How do you stop this self-consuming performance? The answer, ironically, is hidden in the very place you fear the most. The first step in breaking this cage is not to look outward for new answers, but to turn inward and initiate a complete existential revolution. The core of this revolution is not what you should do, but what you are. It asks you to do the exact opposite of all your past habits. Imagine standing in the middle of a vast desert. No signs, no map, no destination. This is what Camus called the absurd condition. All your past inner friction came from trying to find the correct path in this desert. Now what you must do is abandon this futile search. You must say to yourself, yes, life may inherently have no preset meaning, the universe doesn't care if I'm happy, and society doesn't care if I find my destiny. And that's okay. This sounds like surrender, but it is actually the highest form of liberation. When you stop clinging to the search for that one grand singular meaning of life, you are freed from the heaviest of shackles. You no longer need to feel anxious about a standard answer that never existed. For the first time, your mental energy is released from that cavernous gorge. It's like a prisoner on death row who is suddenly told his sentence is canceled, but he must remain on this deserted island forever. At first, there is despondency, but what follows is an unprecedented freedom. He no longer has to agonize about an escape plan and can finally begin to truly live on the island. This is the sharp sword that Sartre hands to you. He said, existence precedes essence. This sentence is the cornerstone of all existentialism and the declaration of your rebellion. It means this: you first exist in this world. You are not a hammer pre-designed to hit nails. You are a living being with consciousness and freedom. Your essence, who you are, what your life means, is not predetermined. It is created by every choice you make, every action you take in this life. You don't discover who you are, you decide who you are. This idea is revolutionary. It means that all your past failures, all your wrong turns cannot define you. They are merely actions you once took, not your essence. At any moment, you can make a new choice and create a new you. Your worth does not depend on your bank account, your social status, or others' opinions of you. Your worth comes from the very fact of your existence itself, this being that is free to choose and to create meaning. When you truly grasp this, you will feel a tremendous sense of dizziness and responsibility. Yes, you are free, but you are also fully responsible for everything. No one can endorse your life script anymore, because the pen was always in your hands and yours alone. Camus gave us the ultimate model of rebellion in the myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to eternally push a boulder up a mountain, only to have it roll back down each time it reached the top. It is a seemingly hopeless, absurd, and meaningless cycle. But Camus says one must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because after seeing the absurdity of his fate, Sisyphus did not break down or surrender. In the moment of pushing the stone, he poured his entire being into that action. He knew the stone would roll down, but every push up the mountain was an act of scorn against his absurd fate, a victory. His happiness came not from the result of keeping the stone at the top, but from the process of pushing it up. He used his consciousness and his actions to give meaning to this absurd task. This is the rebellious posture you must learn. Your job may be tedious, your life may be full of repetition, but you can choose the attitude with which you face it. In every moment of pushing the stone, you can inject your focus, your dignity, your will. You are no longer living for the illusory summit, like a promotion or others' approval. You are living for the act of pushing the stone itself, for the feeling of your own existence in action. This is the shift from inner friction to creation. You stop consuming energy by agonizing over, does this have meaning? And start using energy to create meaning. Your life transforms from an anxious treasure hunt into a passionate, dignified battle. The people who have lived most profoundly in history were all practitioners of existentialism. Nietzsche abandoned a secure professorship to write world-changing philosophy in solitude. Van Gogh, in poverty and ridicule, set the entire night sky ablaze with his brush. None of them received a successful script in the conventional sense, but they used their lives to create their own eternal essence. Now it's your turn. As you grip this sword named existentialism, ready to shatter all shackles, a deeper, more stunning truth awaits you.
After you have walked the path of embracing the absurd, declaring your sovereignty, and rebelling like Sisyphus, you might think you found the answer. But in reality, you are merely standing on the threshold of the final truth. The most profound epiphany, the one that can completely heal your inner friction, is not a complex philosophical theory, but a return so simple it is shocking. The ultimate truth is, you don't need to become anyone. You only need to be. This sentence might sound like a cheap platitude, but after the baptism of all the preceding existentialist trials, it will strike with an entirely different, thunderous weight. Let's go one level deeper. All your previous suffering came from the split between becoming and being. The becoming you is a future, idealized mirage that conforms to the social script. You exhausted yourself trying to catch up to it, to transform into it. The being you is the present, real, contradictory creature of flesh and blood. You despised it, denied it, tried to escape from it. Your inner friction was the civil war between these two yous. And the ultimate existential cure is to have you completely abandon that grand narrative of becoming. It invites you to sink, bravely and unreservedly into your present state of being. What does this mean? It means you can finally allow yourself to lose. In a world that worships winners, this is a profoundly subversive power. You can allow yourself to be not so successful, not so perfect, not so likable. When you are no longer afraid of losing, you win true freedom. You are no longer bound by the rules of the game of winning and losing. Your life transforms from a tense competition into a free exploration. It means you must practice presence. Most of your inner friction happens while ruminating on the past and feeling anxious about the future. The only cure is to drop your entire consciousness like an anchor into the here and now. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. Listen to the sound of the rain outside your window. Taste the flavor of the food in your mouth. When you are fully present, the ghosts of anxiety have nowhere to hide, because anxiety only exists in the illusion of the timeline, whereas the present moment is an eternal sanctuary. This is where Eastern Zen and existentialism converge, to be fully alive in every single moment. It means you will redefine love. You will discover that true love is not finding someone to complete you, but two independent, whole beings choosing to stand together to face this absurd and beautiful world. You no longer need to seek validation and security from others, because you, yourself, are the source of value and security. Your relationships will no longer be bonds based on fear and need, but connections based on freedom and resonance. Ultimately, it means you will experience a profound joy of life. This is not the fleeting, stimulating pleasure, but the tranquility and clarity that Schopenhauer described after escaping the endless chase of desire. It is the powerful, fulfilling life force that Nietzsche's Übermensch feels after creating value with his own will. It is the solemn joy of Camus' Sisyphus, who, after seeing through the absurdity, still chooses to love life. This joy comes from finally ending the war with yourself. You have accepted your shadow, embraced your contradictions, and you no longer try to cram yourself into any ill-fitting mold. You are, completely and authentically, yourself. In that moment, the noise in your head will subside, replaced by a deep, solid calm. So let's return to 3 a.m., when you jolt awake again from that familiar nightmare. This time, you don't fight with the ghosts. You just lie there quietly, feeling the embrace of the darkness. You say to the voices in your head, "Hello, I know you're there, but you can no longer define me." You take a deep breath, feeling the coolness of the air entering your lungs. You realize you have this moment, this unique, unrepeatable instant. You have the right to choose, to give this moment meaning. You can choose anxiety, or you can choose peace. You can choose to hate this imperfect world, or you can choose to love this absurd life. You sit up and walk to the window. Looking at the streetlights still shining in the distance, you no longer feel lonely, but a deep sense of connection. A connection to all the souls who are awake in the night, struggling, searching. You finally understand that the ultimate secret to healing your inner friction is not to find the answer to life, but to live bravely inside the question. Because life is not a math problem to be solved, but a poem to be experienced. And you are the poem.